thank you for
What's
joining
up,
the program
folks?
and
Back
for
to my
being
video. Idaho Senator threatened to defund Cincinnati as city endorsed black mob hate crime. You have 30 days. As you haven't noticed, it had happened over the weekend last week. A couple of white people got jumped by a gang of 20 something blacks for no apparent reason, other than it's a hate crime. But there's some blacks out there defending that, saying that the two white people got jumped, said something racist. But I looked at the video and I didn't hear nothing racist coming out of their mouth. I just think they did that for the hate crime. It's called some kind of knockout game. In other words, they was assault poor white couple, okay? It's plain and simple that they're gonna try to say they was victim, but no. Some are being arrested and more coming out and everything. So we'll get to it, shall we?
so outspoken about this issue. I suppose in a world that is upside down, it is brave to be able to come out and say, wait a second, this looks like a hate crime. This looks like a targeting. This looks like violence against the people of Ohio. And and because it was a black mob attacking a white couple, some people are going to not want to touch it. It wasn't reported for days. There was a complete and total lack of coverage, but also a complete and total lack of an official response from the police forces in Cincinnati. It seems like there was like a third rail situation going on here with the remnants of a woke fever dream in our society. Anyway, you just blew right through it, and you have been a champion for speaking truth on this matter. And so I'd just like to give you the floor and ask, what is the update on what happened in Cincinnati?
Well, thank you, Benny. Thank you for doing that. As you mentioned, there's not one single national news media other than Fox News that's covered this story. So CNN, in fact, I flagged the story for Jake Tapper. He texted me back and said, thanks, I'll look into it. That was Sunday. They haven't given second to this story. So let's recap what happened. So Holly, I'm not going to use her last name, from Southwest Ohio. It was Gabe, her friend's birthday. She's a single mom of a special needs child. It's been a long time since she's been out. As you know, when you're taking care of a special needs child as a single mom, you can imagine how difficult that is. She's about my age. It's called middle age. She's no spring chicken. They went out to dinner to celebrate. They had a great time. The minute as they were walking outside, they got tapped in the head, and then you saw the video which dissolved into this fight. Now, here's what Holly did. Nothing other than to try to break up the fight. Can you imagine punching and beating down to the point of unconsciousness a middle-aged woman? Imagine if that was your mom. When I think about it, if that was my wife. So she's laying down on the ground, completely knocked out. When I was talking to her, she was describing the event. She said she finally, got consciousness back, and she remembered saying to herself, "So much blood." She just kept repeating that, "So much blood," all over her. Police officer came and basically just looked at her. The police department's down 200 officers. They're completely demoralized because they won't actually punish criminals. I'll get back to that in a second. So she gets up, blood all over her. No ambulance. Nobody asked how she was doing. She called an Uber to get home, Benny. Called an Uber after being beaten that almost basically within inches of her life. She thought she was dead. Gets home, of course, it all hits her when the adrenaline wears off. Checks herself into the hospital. She's been in and out of the hospital now 3 times. I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. Here's what the elected leaders, not trolls online. You and I know about trolls. I'm talking about elected leaders. Let's start at the top. The congressman for that area, Greg Landsman. He tweets about Ukraine, 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 and Ukraine. Zero commentary up until very last couple days about the situation. The mayor, he went to a Misfit Mayors conference in Cleveland and then took off for Canada. Hasn't been back to Cincinnati until last night. The vice mayor makes no comment up until last night. She says, basically, leave us alone, we got this. The governor offered, because they're down 200 police officers, to bring in more resources. She said, we don't need the governor telling us what to do. We don't need that help. Now, the mayor overrode that, and they took some limited support from the governor, by the way, for zero cost. So think about that. They turned that down. The city councilwoman, she's a beauty, Victoria Parks, she says they deserve that beating. Now, she posted it online. You think, it couldn't have been her. It had to be some shadow account. They reached out to her, says, yes, I did say that, and I stand by those remarks. The county prosecutor had the criminal that beat her up on a gun charge. A judge named Mallory released that guy on $400 in bail. And that 2 weeks later, he almost takes Holly's life. This is the state of affairs. Now, it gets worse, Benny, and I'm going to give you the breaking news that just happened today. Now, because of course they don't want the narrative, because the narrative is pretty straightforward. You laid it out. I mean, the narrative is, very simple. I think about what I would do if that was my wife and that had happened. It's awful, horrifying, right? The police chief, who had previously blamed social media, issues a statement that her spokesperson issues a statement that Holly is a Russian national, because of course Russia, right? A Russian national that fled back to her home country. Holly is in tears in her home in Southwest Ohio, where she was born and raised. Has never been to Russia, doesn't know anything about Russia. Is an American citizen, but they're trying to disparage her, the victim, the woman who almost got murdered, by trying to say that somehow she's some Russian spy that's in America. And you can imagine, between the trauma of the event, the actual damage that she sustained neurologically, to then see, instead of people rallying around her and helping her, where was the humanity, Benny? Where was the humanity of people saying, my God, look at this woman, we're going to take care of her? And then the leadership of the city is saying basically that she deserved it. Now a police spokesperson is saying that she's some sort of Russian national, and all these people are still in office. They're all getting paid by the taxpayer. And what I've said to the city is very simple, Benny. I'm going to go down there next week. I'm going to deliver them a letter. They're going to have 30 days to put together a plan to protect the civil rights of all their citizens, regardless of their race. And if they don't do that, I'm going to ask all the federal agencies to suspend federal funding of Cincinnati, which would kill me, because Cincinnati is a great city. I want to help Cincinnati. But we have to draw a line in the sand, Benny. We cannot let our cities be gone forever. We will not let these radicals take our cities. We deserve to have great American cities, and we have to draw a line in the sand here. So that's what's going on. It is absolutely infuriating, because again, that is not to be repetitive. I just think of myself. If that was me and my wife out to dinner, and somebody did that to my wife, I don't have words for what I would do.
You're telling me that the city is now attacking the single mother who's working class, Ohio native, as a Russian asset.
Yep. That's their narrative, right? Because they have the George Floyd narrative down pat. And by the way, imagine, so Jake Tapper, right, who knows about the story, flagged it for him, decides not to cover it at all. Can you imagine it, just for a split second, Benny, the races were reversed? Jake Tapper would be living in Cincinnati. He would be covering this story 24/7. The breaking news alerts would be on all the time. Can you imagine if somehow we said, oh, that person is some sort of criminal alien from some country like Haiti? They would slaughter us.
It's no use, Senator, playing these games because we all are aware of what the reality would be if a bunch of young white men hunted down elderly black couples at a country music festival, and then everybody stood around and cheered and filmed it as the couples got beat within an inch of their lives. It would end the country as we know it.
Yeah.
It would end the country. Every major city would burn. Every politician would be weeping and rending their garments on the floor of the House and the Senate. All of your colleagues would be wearing sackcloth and ashes, and we'd pass laws. I mean, they'd have to pass laws, right? They'd pass new laws. The entire world would stop. And so it is despicable. But luckily we get more views than Jake Tapper. So it's lucky for us. You're on a bigger show than Tapper. So.
Well, and Benny,
this is why. This is why, Senator. Sorry about the high horse here, but these people are frauds, and it makes me infuriated that they're doing this, because it really is endemic anti-white hatred. We saw this week. We saw this week, Senator. CNN with the photo of a terrorist in New York City, a photograph of him, with police scanners describing him as either Middle Eastern or Indian. He ended up being a black American. But nonetheless, they're describing him as everything other than white, calling him a white man. Yeah. And what this does, Senator, is it puts a mark on the back of every white man in the building that he is terrorizing. It puts almost a death threat on them.
All white.
Because then the officers or somebody there would see them as the threat and maybe kill them. You could have increased the bloodshed that day because of CNN and because of their anti-white hatred
Yep.
You could have actually really increased the number of people, the number of innocents dead that day, because they refused to report out the facts. It's a real problem in this country.
Well, and again, I would just ask you and your listeners to think about this from Holly's perspective. Beaten to an inch of her life, completely concussed. She's got a swollen a lump on the size of her head, the size of a grapefruit. You can imagine the fear, how she's reliving every moment. The punch.
Mm-hmm.
No woman gets punched like that. There's no woman that I've ever met outside of a professional boxing ring that gets punched like that. And then picks up the newspaper and says a Cincinnati police spokesperson said this Russian woman is back to her native country. And by the way, the New York Post, and believe me, I'm going to have words with them later today. The headline: Russian woman attacked in Cincinnati. Benny, come on. What are we doing here?
Is there any truth to that? There's no truth to that, you're saying? There's no truth to that?
Born and raised in Ohio. Born and raised in Ohio. Never been to Russia. Now, the dot of truth is that the friend that she was with happens to be born in Russia and moved to the U.S. legally and became a citizen 20 years ago. So I was born in Colombia. So if somebody beats the crap out of me, it's Colombian national, beat to the living pulp by a mob. What does my nationality have to do with it? What does my race have to do with it? I got the crap beat out of me by a lawless mob. But you can see that Russian woman beaten in viral Cincinnati brawl. Is that Russian? She's an American citizen. By the way, born and raised in Ohio, living in Ohio. Again, it's to change the subject, you see. It's, let's cast doubt on the victim. She really had it coming to her, says Victoria Parks. And by the way, totally glosses over the fact that the guy who beat her to smithereens was out on $400 of bail. $400 bail he was out on. Because a judge who's a social warrior thinks that we should just be nicer to the criminals. And the vice mayor, we don't need the extra 200 cops. They're fine. Leave them alone. You talk to the Cincinnati head of the FOP, they're a great man named Ken, and he'll tell you the police are so sick and tired of it. By the way, there's real ramifications, Benny. 2 conventions this week canceled that were going to come to Cincinnati, a business that's leaving the city because their employees are frightened to death. We have to take our cities back. And my point is, top to bottom, these guys get thrown out of office. We pay their salaries, Benny. Yes. So the one thing that you pay their salaries to do is to protect you. And they're failing on the one core part of their job.
So this is, of course, why the federal government exists, in order to halt terrorism against American citizens, right, on a state level. And it's always been that way. And, there's a delicate balance. But this is why we immediately contacted, after seeing this story, Harmeet Dillon. And she's a friend of us, and we've worked with her closely. She's now in charge of civil rights at DOJ, and she responded instantly, saying, hey, listen, I'm going to be watching this very closely to see if the DOJ needs to step in here, if this is a civil rights violation, if an American is targeted because of their skin color, and if the local authorities are going to be woke and are going to do restorative justice and say that somehow the white people, were the problem because they happen to be standing in the wrong place and not treat them like an actual human being with rights, then we're going to charge this. What's your take on this, Senator? Should this be charged as a hate crime?
Well, look, I don't know the facts to that level, and I think Harmeet's going to get to the bottom of it. I just care about Holly's perspective, which is she did nothing wrong at all. She was trying to stop the fight. But look, Attorney General Pam Bondi's a dear friend. Kash Patel's a dear friend. Harmeet is all over this. They're investigating it. They're going to get to the bottom of it. Look, if Cincinnati needs to be put on a watch list in terms of having to restore civil rights in that community, it's an imperative. Look, it kills me. Look, my job is to drive economic development to Ohio, but I'm not going to gloss over or pretend nothing to see here. We got to get the facts out. We got to shine the daylight on it. Look, we've lost American cities. Chicago's lost. I used to love going to Chicago. I don't go to Chicago. I used to love New York City. My daughter and my 2 grandbabies and my son-in-law used to live in New York City. They've moved out of the city. We can't just give up and say these radical lunatics, well, they let them own our big cities. That's what Gotham looks like. And we can't let America get there. We need to reclaim them. And thank God we have President Trump in office, because a Biden Justice Department would probably arrest me for saying that this should be looked into. So we have a great administration. We're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to protect the citizens of Cincinnati. We're going to make Cincinnati a place that you can have a good life, where you can go out to dinner and you can be protected. You have to worry. Holly said something to me that really shook me. She says, "I will never enter the city limits of Cincinnati again in my life. I'd be too afraid."
How can we help Holly? Let's take a moment and focus on her, and then let's focus on how do we restore justice here. But loves to take action and is very much alive. And you can check the chat right now. I mean, they're popping off. They're probably talking about how you're the youngest-looking grandfather they've ever seen. I didn't actually know that, Senator. So if we're going to talk about things on a personal level, why don't we talk about Holly on a personal level? Yeah. I've been trying to connect with her. I know Vivek pretty well. This is our first time speaking, but I know Vivek pretty well, and I was like, hey, connect me. You know, he put up a post that he had spoken with her. But it sounds like you're maybe even more connected. And here's Vivek's post. He's one of the first people to champion Holly, and you as well. And so huge credit to you, sir. How can we help her? Could you assist in, like, giving us some way? People want to reach out and, like, assist this poor woman.
She's not ready to talk to anybody because, again, you got to put yourself in her mindset.
Put a fundraiser. We're not talking an interview.
No.
Fundraiser
You know. So I think just knowing that people have her back, knowing that people care about her. This story about her being a Russian agent devastated her. I was presiding over the Senate yesterday, listening to drool from the Democrats. Usually, sometimes put my headphones on. I got a voicemail. It was Holly crying. I mean, the kind of voicemail you get from a woman that, you know, that there's something about the male gene that when you hear a female crying, it affects you somehow. Mm-hmm. And she was just frightened to death from this story line is, you know, what are people saying about me? And I'm texting her madly going, no, it's fine, totally. People have your back. Just having people know that have her back, that they care about her, makes a big difference. Benny, you covering this story, you're right. Your viewership is probably 10x Jake Tapper's. But look, here's probably 20.
Can we do a GoFundMe for her? She has to have medical bills. It has to be pretty expensive. Could we help pay down her mortgage, or, you know, maybe her car payment? Like, could we do something like that?
Let me talk to her, Benny. I think let me talk to her. See what she really wants. Okay. Again,
let's do an official GoFundMe. Yeah. Who cares? Like, maybe she donates the money, right, to the you know, to her local church. But whatever. Like, let's show that she has support.
I will talk to her about it the minute I get off with you, and let her know that you're going to do that. I know she'd really appreciate it. She just wants to know. Look, again, I'll go back to where was the humanity on Friday night, Benny? If you and I, two buds, we're going to go out to a ball game and we're walking down the street, we see a guy beating the crap out of a woman. Will we take out our phone and film it? I don't care what would I would jump all over and get in that fight. And believe me, I'm another guy that probably should do that. You probably have better success, but this is where.
Well, I'm not a grandpa yet.
Exactly. I have grandpa muscles.
My man. There's nothing like old man strength. Ooh, baby.
Exactly. You never know.
Be scared of those old men, right? Yeah.
Actually, you know Alex Brusovitz. Asked him what happened when he challenged me in pickleball. I beat the crap out of him in pickleball. So, you know.
That. No one deserves it more than Alex.
Exactly. Yeah. He actually gave up the sport as a result of the beatdown was so bad.
All right. Well, there's some justice. What about justice for Cincinnati? What happens next? So really quickly here, because we're up against a hard out, but really quickly here, Senator. We have this this Titich, you know, Chief Titich, I think I'm saying that correctly, who's out blaming social media, you know, talking about this, who is, I guess, slow rolling the charges, who's slow rolled talking about it, who called the entire night a major success. That's not how media works. Apparently, she's being sued by her officers for being a DEI hire, for only promoting DEI candidates. Yep. Seems like a real problem, real endemic problem in Cincinnati. And as you have elucidated for us, here's the post, please. This is a city councilwoman who's cheering this on. City councilwoman saying, this is a great thing. Here's her post right here on the screen. We bring the receipts on this program. They begged for that beatdown. I'm grateful. That's what the city councilwoman is saying. Mm-hmm. Where's her? You know, where's her charges from the DOJ? I mean, that's a hate. That's hate crime right there. You know, where's her charges? So what? Like, I guess my question is, Senator, you have a pretty powerful position in the state. It's a red state. It's a state that votes for Trump by 20 points. You know, you are the senator. What's going to happen? You know, what's going to happen? How do you see, carve up this whale for us? How do you see fixing this?
So we're going to go down to Cincinnati next week, unless we're here doing President Trump's nominees, which we probably should be doing that. It's a different story. But when next available time I have, I'm going to go down to Cincinnati. They're receiving a letter as I speak. They have 30 days. to put together this plan. And it's going to be a transparent plan. I'm going to publish it for all to see to make certain that it is a plan that actually makes sense of real change, Benny. I don't want a BS plan, something that's like virtue signaling, some fancy words. Like a real plan. How do we get back up to full staffing? How do we get merit back in place in the police department? How do we get these city council people to understand the moral clarity that they need to understand? And if they have a good plan, which I hope and pray they do, then we're good to go. We'll execute on that plan and we'll monitor it along the way. Failure is a convening of all federal agencies in which I will ask the President of the United States to absolutely suspend federal funding for the city of Cincinnati and cripple the place so that the citizens rise up and replace their leaders. It's the only tool I have, Benny. It's the only tool I can use. I don't want to use it, just to be clear. I do not want to harm Cincinnati, but we will not sweep this under the rug and pretend it didn't happen and then have some other Hawley get the crap beat out of her, maybe even die. I'm not going to let that happen.
No, of course not, because this was attempted murder. You know, they hit that man in the head. The man, I don't know his identity. They hit that man in the head 28 times. He was hit in the head 28 times. That's attempted murder. They're trying to kill him. They bashed his head up against the cement. That's what they were doing. And then Hawley, I mean, again, he just got clogged. I mean, we put up the photos. You shared the photos, so we assume that we assume that you can put them up. Like this woman was nearly murdered. When you punch someone and they fall against the concrete like that, that's attempted murder. Because that could kill you. When you knock out cold and your head hits the ground with the full force of gravity, that's how people get brain aneurysm and die. You know, my wife's a trauma nurse, and she watched that video, and she's like, that's how you die, right there. Or how you live in a wheelchair the rest of your life and eat out of a tube.
Well, we also don't know what the long-term effects on her are going to be. We have no idea. This has not even been a week. We have no idea. And by the way, one of the bystanders said, lights out time for that, you know what. So this is not
demonic. It's demonic.
It's horrible. And again, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Cincinnati will not devolve into Gotham. Just won't let it happen. It's too great of a city, Benny. It's a great place. It's a great town. Amazing people, great companies. And we're going to get past all this, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. And ultimately, we just got to replace all these idiots. I think we can replace at least the congressman. I think we can replace the mayor. I think we're going to start getting some of the city council people replaced. Judges are elected in Hamilton County, so let's get some of these judges. $400 for a gun offense, and you put this lunatic back on the street. I'm going to use my platform. I'm going to use my ability to raise funds for candidates to go replace these judges. The prosecutor is a complete dope. We used to have a really good prosecutor named Melissa Powers. That was a phenomenal. This would never have happened if she was still the prosecutor. So we're going to get these people out of office. I'm going to work on it, and we're going to make Cincinnati that shining city that it should be.
Very, very quickly here, I just want to end the way that we began. You know, you began by like.
Yeah, it's showing the true suspects that is in that Cincinnati politics say whites deserve it. I just want to say this right here. Nobody, this is hate crime, okay? This is plain and simple. This is a fucking hate crime. And they're like being a white still to a bunch old black couple. It'd be all over the news. CNN, NBC, News 19, News 10, all of them will cover it. And everything. But it happened to white people got beaten up by blacks. That's a hate crime. Now, let the roles be reversed. 20-something whites beating up on two black old couples. Or some black people there. It'd be right and sweet. Okay? It'd be riots. Plain and simple. And the comments they said, and what the councilwoman said, the whites deserve that beating. Nobody deserves to have their life taken from them. These people just mind their own business. They didn't try to say that woman who got beaten was a Russian spy. My God, my God, my God. I was the president. I was Trump. Trump, if you see this video, you hear me saying this? Boycott Cincinnati. Build a wall up around their asses. Put an iron dome. Cut their food, water off. Make the people in that town rise up and kill or put that lady out of office. That's the only way you can knock shit down. Idaho and Cincinnati are the red state. But this congresswoman said whites deserve that. Bitch, you deserve to get shot. Let's get back to the video, shall we?
And it's now been viewed all over the world.
So on this channel, we recently discussed a viral video out of the city of Cincinnati that has since made national news headlines. And what is depicted in this viral video that is labeled by the local news media as a fight, as if it was mutual combat or some kind of a brawl, is black mob violence against 3 white individuals. And while some people might be able to make the case that the first white individual, this bald individual, was probably an insider in some way, shape, or form, although the evidence right now at this moment does not show that, make no mistake about it. The fact is that the 2 other white individuals are unambiguously sucker punched and attacked for trying to break up the fight, and one of the people who got sucker punched by a man was a woman that a lot of people had seen battered and bruised on the pavement after she was knocked out cold by this vicious attacker. But of course, because these are black attackers, because they were attacking and enjoying themselves while they were attacking white individuals and laughing about it throughout the course of the viral videos, there are people coming out and rushing to their defense. There are people saying that those white people that got sucker punched repeatedly on video right before our eyes must have had it coming because they're evil white racists, and everybody just needs to shut up because you're just promoting evil white racism. But this is nonsense through and through, and what else is nonsense is all the different various public officials that are running to bat for these people, even though they have proven violent histories of criminality, and this should be surprising to absolutely no one. So we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about the reaction, the cover-up that is going on in this Cincinnati case. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Good afternoon. 3 people, including one with a violent criminal past, now face felonious assault and aggravated riot charges after the chaotic fight downtown. While police say it was a coordinated attack, family members say there is more to the story.
So first of all, and I have to say this because there's a bunch of preverts out there in the audience that will get angry if I don't point this out, but Rachel Whalen is an attractive lady. Attractive lady, local news, I'm identifying this. Let us move on, you disgusting preverts who make me call this out each and every time that they pop up on screen. But secondly, we end up hearing about the bond for these particular suspects, and it seems like at this particular hearing that the bonds are justified by the actions of these individuals. From what I can tell, based on what is told to us in this hearing, one of these people is somebody who is already out on bond for violent crimes, and he is re-offending in this particular instance and maybe the inciting instigator of this whole brawl. But in addition to that, you have the sucker puncher and the woman who attacked the woman who got sucker punched from the side just prior to her being knocked out cold.
Montana's Merriweather, DeKira Vernon, and Jermaine Matthews are all charged with felonious assault and aggravated riots. Prosecutors say Merriweather was the catalyst in what they call coordinated attack. He was seen on video whispering to the victim just before the violence began. He was already out on bond for a separate gun and stolen property case. His bond was set at $500,000. Jermaine Matthews allegedly knocked a victim to the ground and hit another person. His attorney claims it started after the victim slapped him. Matthews was given a $100,000 bond, and DeKira Vernon is also accused of hitting a female victim and has an outstanding traffic warrant. Her bond was set at $200,000.
Now, these are good bonds for these particular suspects, but make no mistake about it, when you look at the viral video, you see about 15 to 20 attackers minimum that participated in this ridiculous assault. But it appears, based on what is being alleged in this local news segment and in the court documents, that this is the black woman that ended up attacking the white woman who was trying to break up the fight, trying to stop the other black people from stomping out the bald white guy prior to her being sucker punched in the face by the guy who probably is the one who was charged $100,000 in bond. So this right now is all to the good. Also, I think it's absolutely crucial that the prosecution is making the case that the inciting instigator of this particular fight was the guy who was out on bond for previous violent criminal charges, which of course runs contrary to the narrative that is being put forward by a lot of people in the Cincinnati government, that these evil white racists started this fight with all of these people, including the ones
who jumped in well after the fact in order to do wrestling moves while they were on the ground and defenseless. Well, it turns out that narrative does not appear to be holding up right now, at least in the way that the case is charged. Now, in addition to this, we also have heard about other defendants getting much lower bonds. One of the women that was arrested in this case got a $4,000 bond, but she only had to pay 10% to get out, so that's $400 for one of the more vicious assaults that has been caught on camera as of late. But this is to be expected in a left-wing city that, of course, goes out of their way to cater to the criminals. Remember, there was local news coverage immediately after this instance that we highlighted before that didn't talk about the victims, didn't talk about the savage attack. They decided to highlight a bunch of black business owners for them to talk about how bad this is for them that these white people got attacked, because people are going to come to the perception that downtown Cincinnati is violent based on the fact that downtown Cincinnati is in fact violent.
This is not who we are. This is not the norm. This is not what happens in Cincinnati.
And if you ask the business owners who call the intersection of 4th and Elm Street home,
something that's isolated. That's exactly what this business is not about, what our businesses are about. We work definitely as a collective to make sure that you have a safe environment.
Videos of fights popped up on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
I immediately sort of understood that the negative effect that it probably could have on this new district that we're creating.
Now, by the way, somebody at the local ABC affiliate that actually produced this segment gave Decoy Voice, friend of the channel, who you might be aware of, a copyright strike for commentary and criticism based on this particular news coverage, which is obviously an intimidation tactic, obviously completely unjustified, as Decoy Voice's video was clearly under fair use, transformative in nature, not a market substitute for the original, and again, this is a way to silence the dissent. But of course, it wasn't just that local news segment trying to deflect responsibility away from the attackers. We actually had the Cincinnati police chief do a press conference where she blamed you guys on social media for noticing the crime.
Another topic I want to cover real quick. Social media and journalism and the role it plays in this incident. And yes, guys, that's you. That is you. The social media, the post that we've seen, does not depict the entire incident.
Bullshit.
That is one version of what occurred. At times, social media and mainstream media and their commentaries are a misrepresentation of the surrounding any given event.
That just goes to show you how these Democrats are. Okay, that she's right there is a Democrat. The woman said that whites deserve to beat, she's a Democrat. This is what I'm saying about Democrats. They have placed the blame on anybody else but themselves. Anybody else but themselves. And everything. This is a hate crime on whites. Now, like damn it, the whites doing that to black people. The ones who are involved. All of us here. Put this scenario, right? 27 whites jump on 2 older black people. Hurt them real bad. They said they were a Nazi or Black Panther supporter or something like that. They had every single one of those white persons that's in that group that jumped on 2 blacks in jail before a day is over. But since it's all a bunch of blacks jumped on 2 white people, that's being said. And it's kind of funny, they say a lot of whites are racist, but as you see stuff going over and over and over, there's more blacks doing hate crimes or violent stuff than any other African race out there. I know somebody will not gonna like the video what I'm saying, what I said about that, but come on. Facts is facts. You look at all the crimes. Statistically speaking, blacks have the highest crime rate than whites. You don't believe me? Look it up. It's true. And this is a prime example why I say that. These 2 white people didn't mind their business and they attacked. You see some of them running up, sucker punching that white woman. And then she got punched in the head 28 times. 28 fucking times she got punched in the head while on the ground. She got killed almost. She's a single mom to a special needs kid, and they did that to her. And you seen that black woman, whoa, and then jumping up and doing wrestling moves on people. If the roles were reversed, oh, it's a hate crime. We can't go outside without. You're free for like a black uniform. ICE attacked us as a hate crime. That's why I can't stand motherfucking shit like this. I don't see race, I see culture. And this is a divided culture. And say white people deserve that? What if the roles reversed? Oh, it'll be riots in the streets. It'll be a bounty on everyone. The white person hated it, done it, but this is the objective of the white, of the left. This is the objective of the Democrat Party playing out, of the woke bullshit and everything. So let's get back to it, shall we?
What that does, that causes us some difficulties in thoroughly investigating.
Y'all do. Y'all didn't even try to do this shit.
And enforcing the law. Because what happens, that social media post and your coverage of it distorts the content of what actually happened. And it makes our job more difficult. Go ahead, right here.
Thank you. 2 questions. Where were the nearest officers?
In the central business section. They were working. They were both in vehicles, and like I said, they had to maneuver through the traffic.
The second question is, you had said social media and news media distorted the content of what actually happened. What exactly was distorted? I understand that there was multiple views of the video, but exactly what led up to this and what was distorted?
Yeah, so I think by the irresponsibility with social media is it just shows one side of the equation.
One side equation.
Without context.
Without context.
Actual
Well, without context.
And then
are you stupid, bitch?
Run with that. And then it grows legs and it becomes something bigger that we then have to try to manage as part of the investigation.
And in addition to that, she blamed the bars that may have overserved the criminals.
Still an open investigation, and all potential charges are being investigated for everyone involved. All investigative
So, you gonna
tools
charge
and
the
techniques
victim too?
are on the table, including were some of these individuals overserved at some local establishments. It is clear to us that alcohol played a significant part in this incident.
Because in reality, you could never expect these innocent Baba Angel Aladdins to ever take responsibility for their own actions. It must have been the social media that caused them to viciously attack, sucker punch a woman, sucker punch another man, stomp somebody's head out while he was on the ground. It couldn't actually be their own actions, and the fact that they clearly and obviously enjoyed it based on the video, which, by the way, the videos are linked in full in the description under where it says sources. They are labeled. Check them out for yourselves and tell me if you think the real issue here is social media actually posting these videos, or if you think the real issue here is a bar that may have overserved one of these individuals.
Here's what Montiana's Merriweather's mother had to say outside of court.
These Russians was walking down the street, and on the video, he said, "You want to mess with these Russians?" And he smacked the first guy.
Now look, obviously it is horrible for the vice mayor, it's horrible for the local news to team up with the local businesses in order to obfuscate blame from the criminal and try to deflect victim status onto them or onto the city as a whole, rather than hold the criminal accountable. But of course, we not only heard from these individuals, but we also heard from the mother of one of the suspects, who says it's wrong for you to say that her son is a thug because he's on the honor roll, and these Russians, these white people, they instigated it by one of these individuals slapping one of these black people.
You know, but it wasn't like they thugs. My child is in school. He had 5 kids. He's on the B honor roll in school. And he's not the thug that they put out in there to be.
Now look, obviously the mother is going to defend her own son, and let's just assume for the sake of argument that what she just told us was true, that this Russian individual ended up walking up to this black person for no reason, and then he slapped said black person, and thus that justified that one black person getting into a fight with that one Russian individual, which presumably would be the bald Russian individual who is being attacked first. Now, of course, according to the criminal charges, make no mistake about it, this slap, if it did did happen actually happened after it was provoked by one of the black individuals, presumably the person who was slapped. Again, if the slap occurred, this would justify a one-on-one fight between that one black individual and that one white individual. But we didn't see that on the video. What we saw was a vicious, savage jumping that people were laughing about, enjoying. And on the video, you see ridiculous actions like people performing wrestling moves, jumping up to stomp on the white individual after he's already on the ground. That is not how self-defense works, and that is not how mutual combat works. That is absurd, and she's saying that it wasn't her son that was slapped. So I got news for you. He may be on the B honor roll or whatever the hell you're talking about, but he is, in fact, 100% a thug. If he participated in it in this way, he's absolutely a criminal thug, an absolute monster. And if he's the one who sucker punched that woman, again, no excuses for him. Throw the book at him. He deserves to go to jail. And if there's video of him head stomping this guy, he should go to jail for attempted murder. Hey guys, editing Sean here, and I just want you guys to know that I actually did, during the course of editing, find the video of this supposedly initial slap that allegedly started the whole altercation. Now, of course, just like I said in the last video, where there could be something that took place before this, they are already in argument in the clip that I saw, but unambiguously, you do see a white person slap one of the black people. But you know what else you see in that video? Exactly what I was talking about, not only in this video, but when I was speculating about it in the previous video, which is a sucker punch from behind delivered to the white guy by somebody else in the crowd. And while the slap may justify single one-on-one combat between the person who did the slap and the person who received the slap, in reality, it looks like they were trying to bait him into a fight so they can jump him. And this is the problem that these black people have in this particular incident. While it might have been justified for the guy to defend himself one-on-one against this aggressive Russian, in reality, what we see on the video is that you have a mob immediately jump in to attack him, which of course is not self-defense, it's not mutual combat, and it's inexcusable. Now, that being said, of course, you shouldn't go around slapping people, and of course, we could still have video that comes out in the future that shows something that took place right before this video, just like I said in the last video. Hey guys, editing Sean again. And guess what? After I ended up looking for this clip to insert into my timeline, what I ultimately did end up finding is a video that shows the black person engaging in a fight with this white person for about 30 seconds before the slap. So it turns out the video that shows this quote-unquote starting with the white guy slapping was also just not accurate. Punches were thrown in the white guy's direction just before that. So again, we could still have something that comes out. I could do Editing Sean 3.0 in this particular video as you're getting my real-time thought process, but as of right now, we're back to the black people starting this brawl. But of course, this is the mother. Obviously, she's going to come out and defend her kid to a certain extent, try to mitigate the circumstances, but the absolute worst person in all of this happens to be a Cincinnati representative who decided to say that these white people deserve the beatdown. They were asking for it and they got it. And of course, she says this because she's a black woman who hates white people. She sees a video of white people getting attacked. So therefore, she wants to justify her violent hatred that she has in her heart and how much she enjoyed this video. Now again, this is from her own Facebook page. And again, it's from Victoria Parks. And it says, "They begged for that beatdown, exclamation point. I'm grateful for the whole story." And of course, people are replying that this is crazy for a member of the city council to actually say. And of course, people are pointing out that a woman got sucker punched near the end of the altercation when she was trying to make sure that the white bald guy wasn't going to get stomped out any further, and she was attacked from the side and then sucker punched by a black man on video. Again, the video is linked in the description, but if you don't understand what I'm referencing, the woman that was knocked out unconscious that you've probably seen many times in reference to this story is the person that they're referring to. And again, we also have another video from another camera that will also be linked in the description of another white guy that was not involved in the initial fight, which turned into a violent, unjustifiable jumping, that was also sucker punched and knocked to the ground in between a car and then dragged into the street so other people could beat down on him when he was already on the ground. This was a savage, malicious beating, and even if initially a single combat one-on-one fight would have been justified by the actions of one of these white people, one of the Russians, in reality, reality, in no way, shape, or form did this violent attack actually have any justification. And again, you can hear from the audio of the video, if you listen to it for yourselves, that these people are enjoying it. They're doing it for fun. Oftentimes on this channel, I get criticism for referring to this as the knockout game because people say, Sean, that's a serious violent assault, as if I don't know that. But the thing is, these people play the game for fun. They view it as a form of entertainment. They view it as a form of enjoyment, and it's absolutely sickening. Now, of course, it's also disgusting that there's about 100 people in and around this area. Most of them just filmed it, and only one 911 call was actually brought into the Cincinnati police. So the mob was also participating and enjoying in this because it satiated their bloodlust. But the fact that you have all these different people in government and in the local media interested in covering up for the criminal, interested in excusing the criminal, is disgusting in every possible way. Now, with all that being said, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comments below, and do you think we're